Well, let's leave that non-oil exports. We'll get back to it in a couple of minutes. But first of all, let's talk about this burning issue of oil theft. And we've seen a lot of revelations in the last couple of days in the media. We've been awash. We've had a correspondent do some rounds in those areas with the NNPC Limited and those security forces or agents privately owned that have been employed to do that. We've heard stories of arrests of members of suspected crude syndicates. We've seen discovery of illegal pipelines and other issues. But I guess the question will be, will this save the $700 million monthly, which the NNPC Limited says the country loses to oil theft? Well, to help us understand, at least we need somebody who knows some of those intricacies in there, is Mr. Dakuku Peterside, former Director General of Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. Good morning, Mr. Peterside. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've been following the media. You've seen the stories, you've seen the arrests, you've seen the allegations, you've seen the pipelines, the one that's been existing for 9 years or more. First of all, are you shocked with these revelations?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm shocked with these revelations. You recall that this issue of crude oil theft has been on for quite some time. I know it's been on for not less than 20 years. But what we're talking about now is the intensity and the degree. The volume of oil we're losing of late is embarrassing. NPC and other stakeholders have put it between 200,000 barrels per day and 200 and 400,000 barrels per day. And that is totally unacceptable. That has had serious impact on our economy, and particularly in the area of investment. You have seen that a number of oil majors are selling off their assets, especially their not deep land and offshore assets. You've also noticed that even the marginal field, the guys who got marginal fields are refusing to develop it or make substantial investment. In fact, most investors have lost confidence in the Nigerian oil and gas space. They are challenged in all dimensions. You've also seen the fact that new investments are not coming in. These are all consequences or results of crude oil theft. Not to talk about the fact that cost of operation is all-time high, and it has an impact on the economy. So I think that from every dimension, we're challenged as a people.
So I guess these revelations should be celebrated, but then I mean, for someone like me, I'm kind of skeptical, because then what should we do with all of this information that is coming out in the open to ensure that in the next 5 years, we don't come back and say, oh, this pipeline has been used for oil theft, has been in use for 5 years or so. What should we be doing with this information?
Well, thank God for the revelations, and thank God for a new approach. For me, it's a cocktail of solutions. One is the fact that it's inevitable that at some point there will have to be military actions. That has failed in the past because of compromise at various levels of our military. Now, the other thing is the fact that we must put stringent laws in place to punish those who are caught in the act or those who get involved in crude oil stealing. Then there's also the policy dimension. But most importantly, some other dimension to it is that as a nation, we need to declare an emergency in this area, devote more than enough time to deal with it. I've talked about military operation. I've talked about putting stringent laws in place. I've talked about deployment of technology to monitor oil and gas from the point of production to the various terminals, including surveillance of pipelines. So there are multiple options. We need to look at what did other nations do to tackle the issue of oil theft. But there's also another dimension that, look, even the guys who are involved in whether operation and regulation, there's some level of complicity. We need to investigate that and find out if there is any truth in it. This is crippling our economy. It's something that we need to apply everything at our disposal. It's not something we can continue to neglect. It's not something we can continue to. We need to treat it as a major national economic challenge and, if possible, economic sabotage, and it requires severe punishment. So I think that these are some of my thoughts on how to tackle crude oil theft. But again, we need to rely heavily on technology.
Yeah, but Mr. Peterson, I think that maybe what makes us different from other countries who may have faced a similar situation is the talks of people in places of authority being involved. We've heard stories of how officers would, even pay some money to their superiors to be sent to those areas because they've been seen as being lucrative. And those people in authority may also be benefiting from it. So where is the willpower to actually fight it if it's being beneficial to a handful of people?
Well, I had mentioned that clearly from inception, that the most important thing we need to fight crude oil theft is the political will. Now, the political will comes in different dimensions. I had also mentioned military action is inevitable, military action. But in military action, we have to fish out the bad elements in the military. It's Nigerian society. It's a reflection of what's happening in larger Nigerian society. We need to fish them out and ensure we send military officers that are upright, military officers that are patriotic, those who will not compromise. But like I said earlier, it's a cocktail of solutions. So not just military action, we also need to engage with the communities. Now, all of these things take place within the precincts of various communities. If the communities own the assets and they feel that they are stakeholders, it might be difficult for these crude oil theft operators to operate. So we must get the buy-in of the community, exercise enough political will, put legal framework in place, a bit of military action. Then there's also compromise on the side of those who regulate or oversight our oil and gas installations. It's criminality. Criminality is usually not very easy to tackle in any society, as is no exception. But just like you said, I totally agree with you that we need firm political will to tackle this issue of crude oil theft. Like I said earlier, it has totally crippled our economy. You can see our debt profile. You can see the rate of inflation. You can see the price of commodities. You can see all of them are linked to the fact that we are suffering from fiscal economic deficits.
Yeah, but these ideas and suggestions you have made, do you see it being carried out by the current administration? We're in transition as it is, as a nation. Do you see it in this administration, or is there something this administration can do to ensure that the next administration follows up with whatever it starts?
Well, I've seen marginal improvement. Recall that in August, our production was below 1 million barrels. By the end of September, we've gone up a bit to 1.1, 1.2 million barrels. That's marginal improvement. We hope that we'll continue in that trajectory. And I think that it has to do with a number of interventions. Intervention number one is that government engaged the military in a different format, in a different framework. The chief of naval staff, you heard him when he engaged with the media and said, look, he doesn't believe that we'll lose as much as 400,000 barrels per day, and that will require a number of tankers. That 400,000 barrels is not small volume at all. He said it's not only the military people, there are compromises from different, and there's complicity from different dimensions. So the rules of engagement seems to have changed with the military. Now, there's also engagement of third party, what people like to call the Tompolo contract, whatever is the meaning of that. That may have also assisted. Then there's a new wave of community engagement, and there's some degree of seriousness and political will. So the current government has started. and I hope that they're able to
Recording in
maintain
progress.
the momentum.
All right, so you also talked about regaining the confidence of investors. First of all, I want to ask, we know that a lot of IOCs have left because of oil theft, vandalism, and all of that. Do we need to get them back, or should we work on local investors? Which one do you think would be more beneficial to Nigeria?
We need both the local investors and foreign investors. Now, the way it works is that if the local investors begin to exhibit confidence in your economy, others become interested. And so it's not just what we say or the things we promise to do. Let them begin to see some action. They will definitely come. There's a way investment works. It goes to where it will bring the best return. And so it's not just what we say. Let's put things in place. When we put those things in place, the foreign investors will see that things are working in Nigeria, things are changing. They will naturally be attracted to invest in our ecosystem. So it's not just about what we say. So whether they are local investors or foreign investors, we need the confidence of all parties. We need their commitment. We need them to be attracted to our ecosystem. And nothing can bring that confidence better than the actions government take and the fact that the environment is conducive for investment. For as long as the environment is not conducive for investment, nobody will put their funds here.
Okay, so you do think that just government trying to, or punishing, or following up on those revelations, I guess, punishing those who have been arrested and hopefully carry out investigation to the real owners, you know, of this contract, that this will be enough to win back the confidence of investors?
It will help. If we successfully commence prosecution of those who are caught vandalizing pipelines or stealing crude oil, and we secure conviction, then people begin to realize that we're taking action. That is no longer business as usual, and it begins to show up confidence. So a number of actions need to be taken to show government seriousness and commitment to tackling the issue of oil theft and pipeline vandalism.
And you also talked about a new approach. You mentioned that earlier. What for you would be a new approach after these revelations?
Well, like I said earlier, one is the engagement of the communities. And I'm sorry to say this, if you notice, when our late President Yaradua came to power, oil production was all-time low. As he began to engage with the communities began to feel a sense of ownership and began to give cooperation. It showed up our production output. That was then. So community engagement still works. Now, two is deployment of technology. And it's available right now. There are also, whether it's surveillance technology, monitoring technology, every technology is available. Almost all the technologies are available that will help us secure our
Wow, seems we lost Mr. Peter's side. Okay, all right. Are you back? Can you hear me?
I am back.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, please. You were talking about community engagement, yes.
I've mentioned community engagement. I've mentioned proper deployment of technology is available. I've talked about the fact that, hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
I talked about enforcement of existing laws is key. I don't think the challenge is lack of laws, but are we probably enforcing the existing laws?
Sorry.
Are we arresting those who identify to have participated in crude oil stealing or tampering with pipelines? Do we have successful prosecution to deter others? That's a new approach, something we should take seriously. Now, intelligence gathering and investigation. Now, for every single incident, nobody should go scot-free. That will give a lot of confidence to the system. Every single incident, we must go to the root of the matter, arrest those who are involved, prosecute them publicly, convict them, and that will begin to deter others and show confidence in the system. These are some of the things I think that we can do differently.
All right, Mr. Peters, just before we let you go, the Deep Blue project, I think earlier this year, we did record some success when it comes to fighting piracy and all of that. And some people attributed it to the Deep Blue project. How successful or not has that project been so far?
Well, the Deep Blue project has contributed, as you can see, in reducing incidences of piracy. By the way, in the last 6 months, we've not had any case of successful piracy in Nigerian waters, thanks to the Nigerian Navy and Deep Blue project put in place by NIMASA. It's a new architecture. We're beginning to reap the fruit of that investment. But I don't think it's just the Deep Blue project alone. There are other factors that have contributed to the drastic reduction of piracy in Nigerian waters. We should sustain the tempo. We should try and investigate what works and what is not working well, the areas we can improve. I'm also aware that the Navy Falcon Eye has contributed substantially to improving the situation. Navy has upped their game in terms of patrol and surveillance. Then there are other stakeholders too that are playing one role or the other. So on the whole, we've seen that there is improvement in the area of maritime security in the country. And the country is a bit more focused right now in tackling the issue of crude oil theft because it's now had very severe impact on our economy. And I think that more than ever we're challenged. So our people now are forced to wake up from their slumber, show more political will in tackling not just maritime crime, but the issue of crude oil theft too.
All right, Mr. Dakuku Peter Side, former Director General, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you too.